Listen, so I asked my hairdresser to take just an inch off the bottom, right? I just wanted to trim my bangs up. Somehow she took that to mean that I wanted about 4 inches taken off of my hair, and now I look like Sorcerer's Stone Hermione. I feel it's uncanny. I also had a very spiritual connection to my long hair, okay? I'm not a short-haired girly. That's just not who I am. And do I still look good? Yeah, because frankly, I could probably pull off any hairstyle that I wanted to. Luckily, though, my mood has been uplifted by several amazing new releases, so we're gonna be talking about all of that today, but I quickly kind of just want to ramble through all the movies I'm not really gonna talk about. But in these videos, I just always make sure to talk about every single movie that I watched. That's just how we do things here. So first of all, I watched the original and remake of Pet Sematary for that video covering those movies. Then I watched X, and to go to my review of that, I did a whole video, a nice little plot breakdown if you want to hear my thoughts on that one. I also watched Evil Bong so I could do a breakdown on 420. And then I have a bunch of comedies that I need to list off, and that includes Good Boys, Pitch Perfect, 21 and 22 Jump Street, and Neighbors. I was in my COVID era, okay? I finally caught the virus. I just was in desperate need of some uplifting content. Not that horror isn't comforting, I just was craving something really low stakes, pure entertainment value. So I went back to one of the most comforting genres that I have, and that would be comedies that came out between the ages of 11 and 14 for me. Not including Good Boys, obviously, but Pitch Perfect, oh my god. Did you know that came out the same year as 21 Jump Street? I didn't, but oh my god, my annoying ass was having a field day with movies that year. Anyways, just going in order of what I have on Letterboxd here, so the next thing would be The Lost City. Also not really going to talk about this one, it's just the new rom-com with Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. Daniel Radcliffe is also there, which how fun. And it was alright, I give it 3 stars. It's not really a good movie, but some parts of it were actually funny, and I love the cast. I also love the role reversal, the fact that we're getting a rom-com starring a 40-year-old and a 57-year-old. I want more of that. Brad Pitt in the movie is also hilarious. Anyways, I'm sorry, moving on to Morbius. Do I need to read a synopsis for this? I don't think so, and I don't want to. Because you already know what's going on, okay? Hollywood still seems to think that Jared Leto is a leading man. Well, technically he is, but, he's out on an island leading his cult, so it's not the same thing, Hollywood, okay? It's as terrible as everybody says. I rambled about it for quite a while over on Patreon with my first reaction, which, by the way, sign up, that's down below if you want to get my first reactions to any new movie that I go see. I don't really feel the need to rail on the movie any more than everyone already has, because it's true. It's just as bad as everybody says. And also not really horror, so let's move on to a horror movie. That would be Scream Legacy, that was released to YouTube. In this fan film set 22 years after Scream 3, the daughter of Sidney Prescott returns to Woodsboro and is terrorized by a new Ghostface killer. Look, I'm never gonna tell you to not support indie filmmakers, okay? But I just was not a super big fan of this one. It's the same guys that did Halloween Night, and I love that fan film. I've talked about it several times. I even still wear my Halloween Night shirt in videos sometimes. But Scream Legacy, I don't know. I don't know. One of my main issues is that there's a lot of buildup, and there's a really good payoff. The third act I thought was great. I love the reveal. But all of the buildup, I just was not interested in. The plot was also a little bit weird to me because, like the synopsis says, they pick up after Scream 3. It's 22 years later. They're following Sidney Prescott's daughter. It's really hard when you're super intimately familiar with the franchise and then, they ask you to just completely forget about Scream 4 and 5. And I'm like, no, but I know what happened. Because it's not a bad idea. And if Scream 4 and 5 didn't exist, maybe I'd feel a little bit differently. But also, until the third act, a lot of the acting was a little bit there was a lot of expository dialogue that just didn't end up really mattering at all. And I get you want to have these well-rounded, fleshed out characters, you want to get us to care about them, but a lot of the information that we get from the characters is it's through dialogue, and it also just doesn't end up mattering. Bit of a problem in it. I also found it to be just a little bit repetitive because pretty much every kill in the movie is the same. I know the Scream movies don't really have the best kills anyways, it's just Ghostface running around with his knife usually. So it was kind of just, more of the same. The best thing about it truly, and why I gave it 2.5 stars, is just for the ending, just for the third act and the twist reveal. Though I called it, I did call it because they killed off literally every other character, so there was only one other person it could be. However, I still liked it, so, that's saying something. Still highly recommend that you go watch it, support small filmmakers. Up next, I rewatched The Hunt, which I probably don't need to talk too much about. 12 strangers wake up in a clearing, they don't know where they are or how they got there. In the shadow of a dark internet conspiracy theory, ruthless elites gather at a remote location to hunt humans for sport. Now, I put this final girl on my top 50 final girls list, but I think that she was in the top 10s. I feel like she was around 15 or something like that. She honestly deserves top 10, if not top 5. Like, I forgot how much I love this movie. I don't know why people take so much issue with the politics of the movie, given that it's a satire that is poking fun at both sides pretty much evenly. They mock both conservative crazies and insufferable liberals, and so, I don't know, the people complaining, I'm like, well, okay, clearly maybe you identify with one of these groups and you can't really take a joke at your expense. And the movie is utterly absurd and self-aware, and that's why I f*** with it. And like I said, top 10 final girl, she's incredible. Everyone in the movie is stupid except for her and the lead antagonist, and I think that that's beautiful. But you already know I like that movie. Moving on. Up next would be The Adam Project, which I'm not gonna read the synopsis for. It's a giant budget new Netflix shitfest. I know it's not horror, but it's a relatively new movie, and I just want to say briefly, I just physically cannot keep watching you pour millions of dollars into movies that look like shit and are full of the most basic cliches I've ever seen. Also recently, they've found themselves in a bit of a scandal with their new website, Tadum. I'm not gonna go over that right now, so please, I highly recommend that you go check out like the last 15 minutes of my last live stream. But I talked about the whole issue of them hiring a ton of women of color only to lay them off about 6 months later. I talked about their new pricing plan, and I kind of showed off the website, and I talked about all that good stuff. It's a mess, but I enjoyed covering it. A lot of you guys said that you hadn't even heard of what was going on, so maybe I should do that a little bit more often in my live streams. Anyway, up next we have The Dropout, which is a true crime drama show on Hulu. If you're not familiar with what this is, Amanda Seyfried is playing Elizabeth Holmes, who was the CEO of Theranos. It was a company that promised all these crazy blood tests that you could do on only a single drop of blood, and then that all turned out to be obviously fake, because that science, it's not real, that doesn't exist, you can't do that. And the show is only okay. The only reason why I would recommend that you watch it is because Amanda Seyfried acts like a complete fucking weirdo, and I love that. You could have taken out at least 4 episodes, like just entirely trim the show in half, and I don't think you'd miss out on anything. They really stretched it out. It got kind of boring at some points, like truly nothing was happening. I felt like they embellished a lot on a lot of the character relationships. So yeah, if you're interested to see Amanda Seyfried doing her thing and being cast in a role that was actually good for her instead of some kind of weird kind of horror movie, that she's been doing, I don't understand her career. So if you want to see her do something good, then watch the show, but honestly, if you're familiar at all with the case and what happened, the show is not going to offer you anything new. After that, I tried a German horror movie on Netflix called The Privilege. A wealthy teen and his friends attending an elite private school uncover a dark conspiracy while looking into a series of strange supernatural events. Maybe that synopsis could serve as a bit of an indication as to how messy this movie is. Listen, I gave it a half star, okay? I didn't know what the fuck was going on. It was just boring, and it kept changing up on me like this movie was having an identity crisis. And on Letterboxd, you would be hard-pressed to find a review that doesn't mention the most random threesome scene in cinematic history. Just veer away, okay? Stay away from The Privilege. If you want a good German horror movie, a very psychological one, then I would recommend Good Night Mommy. Anyways, up next, I finally watched Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. If you're not aware, this movie has been all over the internet lately. People are losing their minds about it. The crew of a horror web series travels to an abandoned asylum for a live broadcast, but they encounter much more than expected as they move deeper inside the nightmarish old building. It's not that good. Sorry. Maybe it would have been like 15 years ago, but it's one of the most basic found footage movies I've ever seen. The reason why I'm really bummed about it is because people were promoting it as the scariest horror movie they've ever seen, when it has exactly one original scare. The rest of the scares involve, ooh, girl reaches into dark hole and gets scratches. Oh no, girl is being pulled by her scarf by an invisible force. Furniture is flying around. Ow, you're so sharp, you're so sharp. Mwah. Probably the worst of them all is I think that there are 2 scenes where one of the characters is dragged backwards through a hallway, you know, Paranormal Activity style. They even pulled a Blair Witch moment with a dude like standing off in the corner, and it's like, I understand if you like this movie if you're not well acquainted with the found footage subgenre. But if you're a fan of and are intimately familiar with the subgenre of found footage, I just don't know how you could be entertained by this movie. It was painfully predictable and really unoriginal, and I think I'm really just so upset because of how people were promoting it as the scariest thing they'd ever seen. And I'm not trying to rail on people if they were actually scared of the movie, because like that's completely subjective obviously, and it's not a fair criticism for me to be like, oh, it was a bad movie because I wasn't scared. That's not why. I think it was a bad movie because it was completely unoriginal and predictable. Just to make that very clear. You might not trust my opinion anymore after this, but after that I watched Twilight New Moon. I was in my feels this past month, okay? I had COVID. It was very depressing having that virus, if you didn't know. I needed depressed, recently broken up with reckless Bella making motorcycles with wolf boys to, you know, get me through COVID, okay? Don't judge. But after that, then I was craving a good found footage horror movie, so I watched The Blair Witch Project again. Had to balance out my disappointment of Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. If you're new here, I love The Blair Witch Project. It's probably in my like top 20, top 30 horror movies of all time. Also very comforting. I watch it at least once a year, and some parts of it still manage to spook me. But I've talked about that movie enough on my channel. Okay, we know that I love her. Pendulum is swinging backwards. Let's now talk about The Bubble on Netflix. Sneaking out, hooking up, melting down. The cast and crew of a blockbuster action franchise attempt to shoot a sequel while quarantining at a posh hotel. I feel like my review is gonna sum up everything that you need to know, okay? Half star. I lasted for 14 minutes. It is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my entire life. I knew in those 14 minutes that was already 14 minutes I'd never get back. That's just completely wasted time in my life. Yes, if there was anyone's perspective that we needed to hear from about getting through a pandemic, it is rich celebrities. Imagine there's no heaven. You know, we're all wasting away in our homes, but these poor celebrities, you guys, you know, they got put up in really nice hotels and had to quarantine for a couple of weeks, and then they had to stay in that social bubble of all these people, an entire movie film crew. Thank God, you guys, these are heroes, okay? Thank God we have this movie and we have the perspective of how those people survived the pandemic. It's sarcasm, babes. Tomato, tomato. Now, I'm only gonna be complaining for a little bit longer, okay? I watched one more bad movie and then I enjoyed pretty much everything else, and I loved like the last 3 movies that I watched in the month, so just hang tight, please. Up next, we have to talk about The Cellar, which is a brand new Shudder original. When Kira Wood's daughter mysteriously vanishes in the cellar of their new house in the country, she soon discovers there is an ancient and powerful entity controlling their home that she will have to face or risk losing her family's souls forever. Yeah, I wish it was that exciting. I didn't make it through this one either, but I did give it 1 star instead of a half star because I feel like the movie just was not really meant for me. Because there wasn't anything technically super wrong with it besides the pacing was atrocious. And it was also very drab, like it was just kind of dull. And I checked out when it became apparent that the main horror element of the movie was going to be math problems. Yeah, you know, it's unique. It's fine, but like I'm gay. Math means absolutely nothing to me. I don't know why it's a stereotype that gay people can't do math, but it is true. I used to be insanely good at math until I got to pre-calc, and then I was very bad at math, like scraped by on a B- type of beat. Anyways, so because of that, I completely lost interest. I was like, no, you're not gonna do this to me. Hi, sorry to interject so randomly here, but my mic decided to stop recording after 32 minutes of filming. Don't know why, no real reason. At least I had a backup microphone attached to my camera, but I'm sorry about the dramatic shift in the audio. Real bummer. And I was really bummed about it because it stars the woman that plays Carly in the House of Wax remake from 2005. Cult classic final girl royalty right here. And it's really interesting seeing her now at 40 years years old and playing a mom. It was a very different role. Unfortunately, just not really a great movie. Hope to see her do something else soon. Up next, I watched Swiss Army Man, which I won't dwell on because it's not a horror movie, but I still find it to be culturally relevant. I watched it because I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is obviously one of the best movies of the whole year so far, directed by the Daniels, and they also did Swiss Army Man. Alone on a tiny deserted island, Hank has given up all hope of ever making it home again. But one day, everything changes when a dead body washes ashore, and he soon realizes it may be his last opportunity to escape certain death. This movie's real weird, you know? I gave it 3 stars because it just didn't really connect with me, even though the message of the movie really should. It's kind of about friendship and seizing the moment, and it's meant to be a buddy comedy drama, but something about all the elements of the movie, like Daniel Radcliffe, first of all, he probably earned this movie 2 of those 3 stars because he plays a corpse. Like, what a weird, unique thing. And like his commitment to the bit, I salute. But the movie is very weird. I feel like there's just a lot of different working parts that don't work well together. And I think I'm in the minority. I think most people find that it works just fine. To me, it was just weird and not really in the way that I prefer. You know, I love weird shit. You're gonna find that out very soon with the other movies that I loved this past month. But this one just didn't do it for me. I love to see how they're evolving though. You can definitely tell it's also a Daniels film. And the way they've leveled up, obviously, with Everything Everywhere, like, come on, what are they gonna do next? Up next on 420, of course, I watched 420 Massacre. A group of 5 women go camping in the woods to celebrate a friend's birthday over 420 weekend. But when they cross the turf of an illegal marijuana grow operation, they must struggle to survive the living nightmare. I actually ended up giving this one 3 stars. I really liked it. Like, no, it's not a great movie, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. All the women felt like very realistic characters, like they felt like real people to me. I was so sad when they started to get killed off, because obviously, like, by the title, it's a slasher. And for a slasher, you have to recognize, like, it has a lower budget, so it's gonna be a little bit less heavy on all the gore and the kills and the excitement. But they were actually able to fill the slower moments with very realistic dialogue. The characters were so strong and you really got to care for them and their issues. And it's also gay. This movie's gay. So we love that. Like, it's quite literally a mixture of everything that I love in this world. Horror, weed, gays. I mean, come on. I'm obviously not gonna recommend it as, like, you know, one of the best underground kind of horror movies I've seen. But we also have to recognize that not every movie is made with the intention of reaching every kind of audience. Some movies are made for certain kinds of people, and this movie was made for me. So do with that what you will. No, not again. Dude, this happened in my Pet Sematary video, but it is literally 420 right now. Oh, you thought I was lying? Think again. Sometimes the universe just lets you know that you are right where you're meant to be, you know? Anyways, up next would be the new Nick Cage movie, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Creatively unfulfilled and facing financial ruin, Nick Cage must accept a $1 million offer to attend the birthday of a dangerous superfan. I gave this movie 3 stars. I hearted it, okay? I really enjoyed myself, but to be very honest, I was drunk at the theater. I love AMC's, and God bless the one in my town has a bar, because I just knew this movie was the type that I needed to be intoxicated for, and I'm very happy with my choices. Because it's not great, okay? It's not really a good movie. I feel like it's getting a little bit overblown with people that have adored it, so they give it like a really high rating. That's all fair, okay? You do you. But I suspect the reason why people gave it such a high rating is because they found it to be really funny. And I did in certain scenes, okay? And the reason why this movie got 3 stars is this man right here, okay? No other reason. None. Pedro Pascal steals every single scene that he's in. It's hilarious to me that he is the most charismatic part of a movie that is quite literally the most Nick Cage movie possible. Just the irony about that, you know? Also, yes, this man is incredibly fine, okay? We'll put that out there. I have a bias, whatever. And look at this. Look what I just found. Fine as hell, and he's an ally. He is actually so hilarious. Like, he's actually the funniest part about this movie. I don't know what to tell you. The best scene in the movie, hands down, is this whole adventure they go on when Pedro Pascal and Nick Cage do acid together. If the whole movie was just those two on an acid trip, 5 stars. Perfect movie. But alas. And for it being the most Nick Cage movie ever, I didn't really get that vibe. The movie was just a little bit conflicted because like it was supposed to be a very Nick Cage movie and that was the whole thing going on, but then whenever Pedro Pascal was on screen, the buddy comedy thing happening there is so much better. And those things felt like they were competing a lot, so it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Anyways, the last two movies. Oh my god. First of all, we have to talk about this, okay? We have to talk about the Northman. Prince Amleth is on the verge of becoming a man when his father is brutally murdered by his uncle who kidnaps the boy's mother. 2 decades later, Amleth is now a Viking who's on a mission to save his mother, kill his uncle, and avenge his father. Listen, the quickness with which you need to see this movie, that cannot be understated. This movie is the epitome of what I mean when I say I love weird shit. So I like The Witch, okay? It's been a while since I've seen it. I don't remember loving it, but I really liked it. Did not like The Lighthouse at all, okay? I understand the intention. I appreciate it. I appreciate The Lighthouse. Do not like it. The Northman, on the other hand, it's one of my new favorite movies, okay? I love it. I love it. Again, on Patreon, I rambled about this movie for 14 minutes straight. I exposed myself, all right? I admitted that I have a new kink, and yes, it's because of this movie. It's so many notes, so many things to say about this movie. First of all, production design, unmatched. And does any other movie have production design like this? No. The dedication to the world building of this movie is insane. It's shot on location in Iceland, and it is one of the most gorgeous countries in the world, okay? It is. So you have these vast, sprawling landscapes and not a drop of CGI in sight. And as the theaters have been overwhelmed by Marvel for the last 10 years, you know, that's really refreshing. But everything, the costume design, all the sets, like you're so immersed in the world. And all the visuals, it doesn't matter if they're practical and you're looking at a landscape or if you're looking at some kind of insane metaphorical visualization of the Norse mythology. It's all amazing. So I can't recommend the movie enough, okay? It awakened something in me. It made me cry. It was the most primal experience I've ever had in a theater. I was talking to someone about it and they said that it made them want to rip a chair in half and throw it for no reason. And I'm like, yes, I feel you. Take me away, long-haired Alexander Skarsgård. Anyways, last movie of the entire month, and I'm very excited about this one, that would be Hatching. This is a Finnish creature feature body horror movie that is actually been released to theaters. 12-year-old Tiina is desperate to please her mother, a woman obsessed with presenting the image of a perfect family. One night, Tiina finds a strange egg. What hatches is beyond belief. Oh yeah, it is. Oh baby, oh yeah, it's beyond belief. You better believe it. No wait, sometimes I just catch myself saying something stupid mid-sentence and I just completely mess up the take. But yeah, this movie is weird. Like The Northman was weird, but it all was part of the world building, you know, it's about the Vikings and their mythology. Hatching is just like, it's not, you know, based in any kind of mythology or reality. It is weird. However, it's like I said, not every movie is made for everyone, and this is another movie where I feel like it catered so specifically to me. It's also one of those movies where it's more vibes than plot, but also the theme gets across in a really great way. So I felt fully satisfied and everything by the movie, even if it didn't have like a great satisfying conclusion, didn't feel like a typical, you know, 3-act kind of situation. It was an incredible coming of age story about being a preteen girl with an overbearing mother. And I think that a lot of women can agree, like when you're a preteen, you do not get along with your mom. And it's obviously taken to an extreme in this movie, but the point, it still stands. I also just think it's hilarious that in Finland, they look over at the United States and how popular mommy vlogging is, and they're like, yeah, that's a horror story. And it works so well, oh my god, and the acting of this movie, I need to see these people in particular a lot more often. I guess I just need more Finnish horror movies. The director, bravo. I absolutely see an auteur in the making. I think my favorite thing especially about this movie is the style, because it's just dipped in all these weird pastel colors, so the visuals don't really match the vibe. Like, it just makes it so much more unsettling. That and the fact that it takes place in Finland over their summertime, and so the sun is always a little bit in the sky, so they get this really, really weird perpetual twilight at nighttime that kind of just mutes mutes all the colors, but you can still tell that it's nighttime. And then also because their sun, like, you know, more or less kind of goes around their sky. Even during the daytime, the vibes are really strange because of the way that the sun is hitting them. So if you're from a more southern country, like especially if you're an American, you know, like all the lighting is gonna hit you in a weird way, but it's beautiful. It all just adds to the atmosphere. And I'm not gonna say a thing about the body horror or the creature in this movie, just that it is very unique, it's effective, I liked it. So yeah, support international films, support women directors, go see this movie, go, what are you waiting for? This video's done, we're at the end now. And that also means that I have to thank my lovely patrons. Yeah, you knew this was coming. These people keep things going, okay? Would not be able to do this without them. Plus you get a ton of bonus content, as I already mentioned earlier. I forgot to mention that I also did another bonus video talking about my first thoughts on hatching. So that's on Patreon as well if you're interested in bonus content and things like that. If not, you can check out all my other social media that is listed down below. Definitely follow me on Twitch. I have plans in the near future to be a lot more active on there. Gonna do all my original versus remake research over there, and you guys can, like, you know, watch all of the behind the scenes videos with me and stuff like that. So I hope to see ya. I hope to see you there. But in the meantime, I hope that you enjoy this video, and I hope I catch you in the next one. Bye!